Christian conservatives are expected to make up a huge chunk of the voters during the Republican South Carolina primary. Some estimates predict 40% turnout among that group alone. How will other candidates compete with Mike Huckabee, a former Baptist preacher? With us now, Jay Richards. He's a research fellow at the Acton Institute, a conservative think tank, and Democratic strategist Tanya Acker. I guess there are ways to compete with the former Baptist preacher. How do you do that?
Well, it's interesting because you look at the primaries here in Michigan just from yesterday, it turns out that Mitt Romney, a Mormon, actually won the majority of the votes of evangelicals. And so I think it's actually an open question in South Carolina whether Mike Huckabee is going to get the majority of conservative evangelical votes.
Tanya, what do you think?
I think that everybody on that side of the aisle has to be really careful, because while what they're saying now may be very appealing to the evangelicals in South Carolina, they really run the risk of turning off independent voters in the rest of the country. And so I think
what do you mean
it's a really
turning off
fine
voters
line
in the rest of the country? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, look, I mean no disrespect to people of faith. I'm a person of faith, but when I hear somebody running for president and he says we need to change the Constitution so that it's more like the Bible, that's frightening to me. We're
what about
a secular
that, Jay?
republic.
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is at the moment, no one's running for a general election. We're talking about Republican primaries. And so what the candidates say here is, frankly, intended to appeal to Republican primary voters.
Wait. I think what he just said is, say whatever you want now. But later on you can change.
No,
Democrats, you can, oh, yes. There's a long, rich history of this in American politics. Don't kid yourselves or us.
Right.
That's what everybody does. It's
no, that's the reality. I'm not saying that
it's not an elephant thing or a donkey thing. Everybody does it. We just don't have good memories.
No, and at the moment, of course, I think that's what we're appealing to. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I know what you mean, but, you know, that we all carry out this charade. It's kind of funny, right, Tanya?
And it's a fact, and it is something of a charade, but I have to tell you, I do think it's a risk because they're going so far this time, and it feels to me almost as if there's a little more pandering to the extreme right-wing base this election season than has been the case in years past. When you've got people like John McCain who are jumping on that bandwagon, remember in 2000, he really separated himself from that wing of the party, but he too was trying to make amends.
He went way away from it, and then he jumped right back in there with the most conservative of all universities in the country. It just goes to show you can do whatever you want to do, right, Jay?
Well, no, I mean, look at this on both sides of the aisle. I mean,
there's no doubt about that.
You know, I mean, in October, the three leading Democratic candidates talked about Jesus and their faith and their belief in God loud and clearly on CNN, on Fox News competitor. And so everyone's talking about this. I don't think it's cynical. I think the truth of the matter is that the American electorate in general is interested in these religious questions on both sides of the aisle. I don't think anyone's being necessarily cynical to talk about these things. So I do think in the Republican primaries, each of the three leading contenders is trying to reach out to this large block of conservative, religious, and evangelical voters.
Well, I guess you do what you can do to get the votes. Thank you very much. John Edwards lost to Barack Obama in Iowa, lost to Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire. His campaign says it hopes his luck will change with Nevada caucuses. We did a poll last night, a focus group thing, talked to 30 undecided voters in Nevada after the debate. Here, watch what happened.
How many of you thought John Edwards won? How many of you came in here supporting John Edwards? I just want to make that point again. How many of you thought John Edwards won?
One poll shows Edwards statistically tied with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in Nevada. Back to the panel now. Democratic strategist Tanya Acker and Jay Richards. He's a research fellow for the conservative think tank, the Acton Institute. Tanya, what's the thinking about why it is that he does so well in these focus groups, not just on this channel, but, I mean, everybody does them, and he always does well, yet he gets half the votes of anybody else?
He's really fiery, and I think if you look at last night's debate in particular, both Senator Obama and Senator Clinton were really trying to make nice. I think that it was really in their interest almost not to make news, whereas Senator Edwards, he really appeals to the base. And, you know, I'll agree with Jay just about how the mechanics of the primary season are just so very different. I mean, Edwards really has the ability to fire up the Democratic base,
yet he doesn't get the votes that the others do. Jay, what's your take on it?
Well, frankly, I mean, I think about after the Iowa caucuses, I mean, I was just amazed at how little the press was talking about John Edwards. I frankly think there's just this intrinsic interest in these other two candidates, with Hillary Clinton, a woman, and Barack Obama, an African-American. That's just interesting, and I think, frankly, the voters are sort of following the press on this. It's not any inadequacy on John Edwards' part.
Well, if John Edwards would come on the channel, I'd talk to him. I mean, I'd talked to him a long time ago, but he won't do it, so what can I do about it? Tanya...
Well, that's his fault.
Well, I don't care. I'd rather have Glitter Girl on here anyway. Hey, Tanya, is it your sense that there's a way for John Edwards to take this thing that happens for him in focus groups and translate it into, well, the polling booths, or in this case, the caucus rooms?
I think that he is really doing everything he can, but again, I think that Jay's right. He's just not as sexy a candidate in the media. People are much more interested in following Senator Obama and Senator Clinton, and then this
He has a mighty strong middle-class message, though, and it's not as if his message isn't getting out there. It is getting out there. He's on the inside the TV box every day, and yet he keeps being rejected.
Well, but the question is...
Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
The question is what John Edwards, what distinguishes him as a candidate from Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama? That's the question. Because certainly he's speaking to the middle class. He's got a clear middle class message. He's articulate. He's a good-looking guy. But I can't think of anything that actually distinguishes him from his competitor.
I very much disagree. I think there's plenty to distinguish him. I think he's far to the left of both Senators Obama and Clinton on a host of issues, particularly economic issues. So I think that he certainly can distinguish himself on that point. I just think that the media is not finding him to be as sexy a candidate as the other two, unfortunately.
All right, ladies, gentlemen, thank you both.